What is up, guys? Today we have trap bar versus conventional deadlifts, a battle to the death. In case you're new here, there really isn't going to be a versus. I'm not going to declare a winner. I'm not going to say one is good or bad or right or wrong. Hopefully, I'm just going to kind of explore the differences between the two, because obviously a straight bar and a trap bar are not the same. So it's going to have some different things or some different options available. So the whole goal of this is to try, in my brain, which I could miss some stuff, kind of cover all the differences between the two, what that actually affects as far as training decisions are concerned, and then let you make some decisions all by yourself. So before I dig into it, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. I promise you're going to like it. And also, keep leaving comments, because this is by request. So someone requested this in the comment section. So I'm doing this video purely because one of you guys requested it. Even if you don't have a request, just put some comments down there, because that's good for the algorithm, right? So anyway, I'm going to try and go in an order that I think makes sense from the smallest differences, so the things that are differences, but in my opinion have the least amount of effect on training, to what is actually the biggest difference. So there's three main things I'm going to go over here. So the first thing I'm going to go over is range of motion. Specifically, literally just talking bar as far as how low you can bring it to the ground, dependent on the plates that you have on. And now this isn't something that you would think is overly complicated, but I honestly think some people do this or don't do this, not knowing that there really is a difference. So again, I've discussed this in videos before. It's not good or bad, but the diameter of Olympic plates is arbitrary, right? I don't even remember what they measure. I've looked it up before, but obviously half of it, so the radius of one, is basically what determines when you're doing the bottom of a deadlift. Most people, that's where they end, where the plates hit the ground. So realizing obviously that diameter here, when you have a straight bar, basically the center of the plate is pretty much right in line with the actual bar itself. Whereas on a trap bar, you have two options. So most trap bars have this handle there. Of course, there are some other trap bars that have a lot more options than that, have adjustable handles, which is awesome. But for most typical trap bars, there's basically going to be an extra handle on top like this and one here. And so again, this is boringly obvious to, but someone else it's not. If you are using this handle, basically if you're even trying to do the same type of deadlift you would with a bar, you're gonna have, what is that, maybe a 3-inch difference in range of motion, 2 inches, 3 inches, I don't know, I'm gonna get my ruler out. So just realize, obviously, if you go until the plates hit the ground, assuming you have 45-pound plates hitting the ground, you can't go as low as if you were using a straight bar. But just in case somebody doesn't know this at home, you can flip the bar over. So again, if you grab these handles down here, then basically your hand position is right in line, the same position it would be if you were on a straight bar. So now if you're going down, basically the distance from your hand to the radius of the plate to the ground is going to be the same distance for both bars. So that's difference number one. Again, kind of an obvious one, maybe, but I think some people obviously just go into the gym on autopilot and don't realize by grabbing those top ones, you may be having a shorter range of motion, not really even noticing it. Difference number two is basically going to be your hand position. As a result of your hand position, where your upper arm and shoulder position as well is going to be. And again, I'm going to say where I think maybe the smart on paper thing, there might be a slight difference here. But the reality is, I think for the most part, it's a little bit of a wash, and I would say go to personal preference. And so what I mean is, if I grab this bar doing a conventional deadlift, I have to take a pronated grip, unless you have mental problems and want to tear your biceps and go both hands underhand. But for the most part, let's just say you're going over, or if you do go over-under, then you're going to have a significantly different position from upper arm to upper arm, shoulder position. But if you go over on the bar, how most people do, especially in the bodybuilding world, I would recommend going over, is you're going to be at the shoulder joint. Look at my shoulder. You're going to be a little bit more internally rotated, and your shoulder blades will be slightly more protracted, just compared to a trap bar deadlift. So again, if I go with a trap bar deadlift, obviously my hands are at the side, and so my upper arm and hand position, as a result of my hand position, my upper arm is going to follow and be a slightly different position, and in turn my shoulder blades will be in a slightly different position as well too. So again, just without the two, notice here, this is basically where I'm going to be. If I come to my side, I'm a little bit more externally rotated at the shoulder joint. My shoulder blades are going to pull back just a little bit. So again, the sciencey, nerdy thing, people tend to make too big of a deal about positions and think that one is better, safer, or stronger than the other. And again, at the extremes, I think that may be true. And what I mean by that is someone's going to inherently say a more neutral position is better, safer, stronger. Some people think that the second your shoulder blades protract at any amount is a bad thing. Some people think internal rotation at your shoulder joint is just inherently bad. I don't think that makes any sense because you wouldn't carry that over to any other joints in the body. People just think about, I think that stems from this notion of good posture, bad posture. And again, at extremes, your joints might not be as stable, muscles might not be as strong. But again, realize the extreme of protraction is something like this. The extreme of internal rotation is something like this. So when muscles get to their extreme lengths, when joints are at their end range of motion, I would agree, things tend to not be as strong or as stable. So those are positions you would want to avoid. I wouldn't want to deadlift like this. That might not be a safe position as far as my shoulder joints concerned, as far as my shoulder blades are concerned, obviously as far as my spine is concerned. But the difference of going from this more neutralish position to slight internal rotation, slight protraction, I personally don't think is any less safe or any less strong. And again, some of that, again, is from those overwhelming principles. Hopefully, I just explained, again, of extreme ranges of motion. In the middle seems to be pretty safe, but also just from anecdotal evidence. I mean, normally when people are deadlifting, we've seen people deadlift 600, 700, 800, 1,000 pounds, and they seem to be able to do it in this position without their shoulders ripping off of their body or their shoulder blades ripping off as well, too. So again, I don't really think I have one way that I would say is stronger or safer, but you know, you can compare the two. That's kind of the point. Realize it is a slightly different position. Maybe you do feel stronger and more stable or just more comfortable in that neutral-ish position. Then maybe you should do more deadlifts in the position when we consider some of the last things I'm going to cover in this video. So again, I'm not really giving a check of good or bad, right or wrong, comparing the two. But I think this would be one where it is worth experimenting with. If you have these both bars at your gym and you want to do some sort of deadlift variation, that is something worth trying. And again, if you feel significantly better with one hand position grip and one resulting shoulder position over the other, then have at it. Maybe that's a better variation for you. And the last difference number 3, we're gonna come over to the chalkboard for. It's not actually a chalkboard. Do chalkboards exist anymore? I don't know. It's a dry erase board. So this is what I would say is the biggest difference between, again, a conventional standard bar deadlift and a trap bar deadlift is literally the semantic fact that the bar path of the bar and the fact that there is a bar basically connecting hand to hand creates an arbitrary position that your shin and knee will not be able to go past unless you literally go through the bar itself, which again, you'd have to be pretty strong for your knees to break through a barbell. So again, what does that mean? Just to clarify, we've got my sweet stick drawings are back. If you were concerned they weren't going to be in this video, here they are. You're welcome. Sigh of relief. But if we look here, this is supposed to be, and again, spare my accuracy for dimensions. These people probably grew and had some different ratios as they went from one to the other. But this is supposed to be more of the bottom of a deadlift position and standing up slightly through the deadlift. Bottom of a deadlift position and standing up slightly through the deadlift. And again, this is going to be with a bar. This is going to be with a trap bar deadlift. And again, I'm going to clarify, so hang with me. So again, if we look, reality is as long as you have any significant load on the bar to the point where the bar generally makes up more weight than your body weight, realize the bar is going to be the main thing that determines your center of mass. And all that means is the center of the bar, the center of the weight, basically wherever you're gripping at your hand, is pretty much always going to align with midfoot. So if I draw this red line, that is the bar path that the barbell has. But because there's a barbell there as well too, your shins and knees can't go past it. So when I'm in the bottom position of a conventional deadlift, which is this one, again, realize this little dot here is supposed to be my hand. The dotted line is going to be your arm. Just imagine, obviously, if I had a, let's do this one with blue, bear with me. This is supposed to be the plate. Circumference is going to be somewhere, if I was at the ground, it's a big plate, relax. So this would be basically the start position here. Your shin has to stay behind the bar. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, the bar you obviously can't see completely in 3 dimensions. This is from the side, but the bar is going this way. Your shin has to stay behind it. As you start to come up, again, imagining this is the barbell, your knee has to stay behind that barbell as well too. So in the start position, your knee can technically be slightly ahead of that bar path, but as you stand up and literally as the bar is right in front of your knee, it's going to have to be behind that bar again, unless you're the Hulk and you can smash through the bar. So all other things being the same, when you do a conventional bar deadlift, your knee will have to stay, your shin and your knee will have to stay behind that bar, which all other things will, again, this is the thing about your knee. I'm going to give you guys some real thing. It's the knee bones connected to the, your knee is part of your femur here. So if your knee is pushed back, your femur has to be pushed back, your hip has to be pushed back. That's kind of a joke. You don't have to sing that song. They teach you that, and I went to college. They taught me that. So again, your knee will never be in front of that bar path. So with a conventional bar, you're basically never going to have it be very knee dominant. It's going to be extremely hip dominant. This distance, so again, if you haven't watched a couple of my other videos, this is a moment arm. Moment arm is half of the equation that determines torque. Torque is really what your joints experience as far as force is concerned, which really determines how much muscles have to work. Because there's no moment arm, that knee can basically never be in front of that bar path. Relatively speaking, there's little to no torque with the knee. It's not much of a quad exercise. So with a barbell, it's going to be much more hip dominant. Again, realize knee behind the bar forces the hips further back. Hips further back means hips have to work more, and in turn, all those joints that make up your spine have to work more as well too. So with a conventional bar, you don't really have the option of making it much more knee dominant. You have this basically imaginary wall that is the bar path that your knees have to stay back behind the whole time, and which will in turn push your hips further back, which also, whenever your hips are further back through the range of motion, will always lead to a less steep spine angle, closer to parallel to the ground spine angle, which again has all those things that I said just occur. So realize this drawing over here is comparatively the same thing with a trap bar. So again, imagine this is the person's hand holding the trap bar. Again, there's still a plate here, but again, because the plates are basically, there's nothing in front obviously connecting to, there's a big giant space, your knee can go wherever the hell you want. So if I want to, if I've got the ankle mobility to, I can push my knee forward, which creates, again, a moment arm there from that line of force. The line of force is still going to be same. The actual load from the plate path, I guess the bar path might not be the most accurate, but the center of the plate path, which again is going to determine the big thing of your center of mass, again, if you're using a significant amount of load, is going to always still be over knee foot, but now you don't have that barbell restricting your shins going forward, restricting your knees going forward, so you have the options of knees going forward. So again, if the knees go forward, remember the song, the knee bone's connected to the... So if your knees go further forward, your whole femur comes along with that knee joint. That's the top of the knee joint. In turn, your hips will go further forward. So this distance here is shorter than this distance here. So with a trap bar, you have the option of making it more knee dominant and less hip dominant. And again, you're going to have a more steep or more vertical spine angle as well too, which means that in general, you're going to have more quads working and a little less hips working, a little less back working, obviously still working, just less comparatively to this example. And same thing as you stand up again. Again, if this is supposed to be my hand here, this is the knee here. When you stand up again, you could never have the knee in front of this because there'd be a bar connecting. The bar would literally be through your femur at this point in time. That would be pretty painful. So again, going from the bottom and standing up a little bit, you can the whole way through have your knee further forward and your hip further back. So that's the big summary there. That's the main difference, is the trap bar gives you the option of being more knee dominant. Now, the other consideration is with a trap bar, you can do anything that you can do with a straight bar. So again, I gave this example that now you have the option of shin and knee going forward if you want, but you could do this exact same deadlift over here using that trap bar. So you could have your hips further back. You could have that knee behind that bar path, behind that line of force, and have it just as hip dominant as over here. So it is a fair statement that the trap bar, I think overall, allows for more versatility with training goals than a standard straight bar. Does more versatility equate to better? No, it equates to more versatility. Most gyms have both, so it's not really a big deal. But again, if you were maybe buying one bar for your gym for deadlifts and you weren't going to use a straight bar for anything else, maybe you could make the argument the trap bar is better, but again, you're probably going to want a straight bar for other stuff as well too. But so again, that's the main take home. The trap bar deadlift, you can do pretty much any type of deadlift you want with. And with this one, with the straight bar doing deadlifts, you're going to be limited to having them be more hip dominant and less quad dominant. And then the reality is, the question might be, why would I ever do a straight bar deadlift? Well, again, mess around with it. So again, some of it is, even though I said, okay, maybe this neutralist position is better, maybe I can do all the exact same things that I want to do with a trap bar that are conventional, but if you feel more comfortable and more stable with that overhand grip, that bar staying in front of you, maybe the fact that you have to keep things further back helps with cueing, helps with form, then I'm not saying, oh, you got to all of a sudden do all your deadlifts with a trap bar. I'm just saying on paper, it's definitely a little bit more versatile than a straight bar. So that's the main difference. More options with the trap bar, specifically more options to be more knee dominant. And then aside from that, some subtle stuff with grip, some subtle stuff with range of motion to be aware of. And again, even if you were grabbing that top handle of the trap bar, realize obviously you could stand on something, you could create a deficit, things like that as well too. So even grabbing that top handle is not a limiting factor. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that helped. If you have some questions or something's unclear, leave it below. If you have some suggestions for future videos, or maybe I'll demo stuff and have sweet ass drawings, leave them in the comments below. And as always, if this was helpful, if you didn't trust me at the beginning of the video and now I've gained your trust, hit that little subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and again, tell a reasonable amount of your friends. 2,000 to 3,000 friends I think is a good amount, at least to start. Until the next time, guys,